Royal Caribbean also offers balconies that face the inside of the ship. These are balconies that I probably would never be interested in spending my money for. They usually only cost a little bit less than an ocean-facing balcony, but they're missing one thing that I really love about having an ocean-facing balcony, and that is, it is Sunday, February 25th, 2024, and on this week's edition of Sunday Sofa Time, we're talking about the 3 most popular cruise ship cabins. We're going to be looking at some cruise ship cabins in just a minute, but for everybody who's new here, I'm Morgan from the very unofficial travel guides. I've been making travel videos for 15 years now of popular and not so popular tourist destinations to give you a very honest, unofficial look at what it's like to be there. And some of the most popular videos here on the very unofficial travel guides have to do with cruising, and actually, I have made a video discussing the 3 most popular cruise ship cabin categories on the channel before, and it's one of the most popular videos I have. And so I decided now, after how many more cruises since I created that video, let's dig into it again. Dive into it again? We're gonna talk about it again. And in this video, I'm also gonna tell you my reasons for why I almost never book an ocean view cabin. So make sure you stick around for that. An inside cabin is exactly that. It's a cabin that is on the inside of the ship, and a cabin that is listed as inside cabin is not going to have any window, any real window. Inside cabins are usually the least expensive cabins on a cruise unless there's some kind of special happening, and they're usually the smallest cabins as well. One nice thing about inside cabins is if you are somebody who needs it to be completely dark in order to sleep, an inside cabin is for you because of the fact that they're in the middle of the ship and they have no windows at all. It gets really dark in an inside cabin. Depending on which ship and which generation of ship, they might not even have like a little built-in nightlight in the mirror like a lot of the newer ships have. And so when you turn off the lights in an inside cabin, even during the day, cave darkness. And I know that appeals to some people. Another thing that makes inside cabins really appealing is, of course, the price. The price of an inside cabin compared to a balcony cabin can be $800, $1,000, even more dollars less. So that might mean the difference between you getting on the cruise and not getting on the cruise. Inside cabins are great for a small budget, and depending on the ship and the itinerary, you might not even really be spending a lot of time in the cabin anyways. So you might want to consider an inside cabin if you are on a small budget, if you like it to be really dark when you're sleeping, and if the itinerary is one where you're stopping in a new port every day and you know you're going to be off the ship a lot. There is a variation of inside cabins that has become more and more popular nowadays, and those are these virtual portal or virtual balcony cabins. Please correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the first cruise line to do this was Disney, and then I think Royal Caribbean started with their Oasis classes of ships, but I'm not really sure. The first time I experienced it firsthand was on my cruise on the Harmony of the Seas. I had an inside cabin with a virtual balcony, and this was so much cooler than I thought it was gonna be. What this basically is a television shaped like a window that shows you what's happening outside in real time. And when I cruised with a virtual balcony on the Harmony of the Seas, I thought it was just gonna be like, you know, like having the television on a screensaver, but I was really surprised at how easy it was to sort of trick myself into believing that that really was the outside that I was looking at. That might sound kind of weird, but it was just a really nice upgrade. So if you're looking at a ship that offers inside cabins with a virtual portal or virtual balcony, and that is still in your budget, I would recommend it. It's a cool little upgrade that does give you the feeling like you have some kind of sunlight or view to the outside, and to me, it didn't seem like watching a television. The next most popular cruise category is, of course, ocean view. Not all ocean view cabins are the same, but what they do all offer is a view of the ocean. Shocking, I know. Ocean view cabins are very often the same size as a balcony cabin, like the inside part of the cabin is the same size, and then instead of where the balcony is, you have a wall with a window, and these windows are what varies greatly. Sometimes they're a small round window, sometimes they're a large round window, and sometimes it's a square window. But when I say window, don't get the impression that you can open it. As far as I know, there are no ocean view cabins with a window that you can open. And the reason for that is because these cabins are usually lower on the ship and close to the water, and that's just not some place you want to have like an open hole on a cruise ship. Should I say that differently? Is it really nice to have real sunlight coming into the cabin in the morning? Yes. Is it really nice to be able to look outside and see the ocean when you are at sea? Of course. But are those two things worth the usual price difference between an inside cabin with no window and an ocean view cabin with a window? In my opinion, not really. And this is why I usually don't ever end up in an ocean view cabin. I always want to be in a balcony cabin, but it's not something that is always in the budget. And sometimes for me, if there is a cruise or a ship or an itinerary that I'm interested in and I can't afford to do a balcony cabin, then I would rather just not go on the cruise. And to me, like I always say, and I've wrote to so many of you in the comments who have asked me about this, the two options for me are a really inexpensive inside cabin and then having a bunch of fun money to make the cruise amazing anyways, or a balcony. Just because the window factor, it's not really important enough for me because I know how I usually act and interact on a cruise ship. And for the price difference over an inside cabin, it's just not worth it to me. Also, another thing you have to remember is as soon as the sun goes down, you cannot see a thing outside of your cabin. It's just blackness out there. So yeah, it's nice to wake up and have the sunlight and also be able to look outside, but you know, the benefits of having this view to the outside world, they're only available like between the sunrise, like 6:30 in the morning, and depending on what time of the year and where you're cruising, like 7:30, 8 o'clock at night. As always, there are exceptions to these kind of cabins and to everything I'm saying, and I'm interested to hear what you have to say about this in the comments. Royal Caribbean has so many different classes of ships nowadays, and they also have cabins with windows that don't look to the ocean, and they also have cabins with balconies that don't look to the ocean. We'll be talking about that too. And there are some cabins on the Oasis classes of ships that have windows that look to the inside of the ship or kind of to the ocean. If you've ever cruised with an Oasis class ship or seen any videos about the Oasis class ships, they have this like double tower sort of design where the inside of the ship is kind of open. And so if you have one of these outside facing cabins towards the back of the ship, depending on where you are, you could see the ocean actually. And some of these are in a location where literally just around the corner, you have an outdoor space, a large like shared outdoor balcony, or the really cool Central Park area, which is sort of like an outside space inside the ship. And to be honest, those are cabins that for me would be worth spending a little bit more money over an inside cabin, just because I know if I do want to go outside, if I do want to see the ocean, I just have to literally like open my door and in 25 to 30 seconds, I'm there. I would spend more money for that. I don't think I would spend more money for one of the promenade facing inside cabins, although it's nice to have this very big window in there, but to me it kind of feels like being in a cabin in a shopping mall and you have very little privacy. I don't know, I guess I just wouldn't pay extra for that, but maybe I will sometime just to check it out and let you know what it's really like when you stay there. Okay, the final and most popular cruise cabin category is what we're gonna talk about next, but before we do that, let me take a couple seconds to tell you about my book, Getting Stitches on a Cruise Ship. This is a short, fun read talking about my life before I started making videos full-time, how I started making videos full-time, and then there are 10 stories about true things that have happened to me while traveling around the world, like when I had to get stitches on a cruise ship. Picking up a copy is not only a way to get something fun to read on some afternoon, but it's also a great way to support what I do here on YouTube. So if you're interested in that, check out Getting Stitches on a Cruise Ship. It's available on Amazon now.
Oh my God, I can't believe you caught me on the phone.
Here we are at the final cabin category we are going to discuss in this video, and there are so many more cabins. There are different levels of suites and junior suites and different kinds and locations of balconies. I don't think we're gonna go into all that in this video, but maybe in an upcoming video. A balcony cabin is usually the same size as an ocean view cabin, and then the difference is instead of a wall with a window, you have an actual outdoor space where you can open a door and go outside. You can get that fresh air, you can look up at the sun, you can look down at the ocean, you can have a glass of champagne and wave to people as you sail away. There are so many great things about having a balcony, especially on a cruise where it's sunny, if you have a lot of sea days, or if you're cruising the Mediterranean where there are so many ports that are just so picturesque and wonderful to look at. I will always prefer to be in a balcony cabin, and there's a couple situations where I think a balcony cabin is kind of a necessity. One of them is if you're cruising with somebody that you either don't know that well or maybe don't live with. Let's be honest, a standard cruise cabin, be it inside ocean view or balcony, is not really that much bigger than a North American college dorm room. And so if the person that you're cruising with isn't somebody that you like live with and are used to being around a lot, it can be tricky to spend a week or maybe even longer in that confined space in the times that you are in the cabin. As you'll know, if you're up to date here on the Very Unofficial Travel Guides, my most recent cruise was with my sister on the Independence of the Seas. It was her first cruise, and I knew we had to be in a balcony cabin just because you have a little bit more space where you can kind of spread out and get out of each other's way in a way. That makes it sound so negative. I don't mean it like that, but yeah, it's just nice that one person can be on the balcony while the other person is getting ready, or if you don't want to be out and about in the ship, but maybe one person wants to take a nap, the other person can just hang out on the balcony, read a book like this one, listen to some music, you know, whatever. And of course, the more people you have in the cabin, especially the more dudes you have in a cabin, and the more everybody's drinking and eating a lot of food, sometimes it's just really nice to be able to open up the door in the morning and let in some fresh air, if you know what I'm saying. To me, a balcony cabin is always worth spending more money on, of course, if it's in your budget. I honestly can't think of any cruise I've ever been on where we were in a balcony cabin and I thought,
you know what? I don't really need this balcony.
It's always been a plus to me, and that's always where I start looking when I'm pricing which cruise I'm gonna be doing next. As mentioned, not all balcony cabins are the same. Some of them have sliding doors where you really can leave the door open and it is basically a floor to ceiling window. I think basically all Royal Caribbean ships have those, except now the Icon of the Seas does have these like infinite veranda style balcony cabins, which we first encountered on our Celebrity Apex cruise. So this is basically like half of the wall opens up and then the inside becomes the balcony. I'll leave a link in the comments below if you want to look at that, but honestly, tell me honestly, when you're watching YouTube videos and somebody says, if you want to watch that, there's a link in the description, how often do you really go down there and then look for that link when you're done watching the video? I don't think I've ever done it. That's why I'm asking. But if you do want to see videos of several cabin tours of different cabin categories, in the description below this video, I'll put some links so you can check them out. Royal Caribbean also offers balconies that face the inside of the ship. These are balconies that I probably would never be interested in spending my money for. They usually only cost a little bit less than an ocean-facing balcony, but they're missing one thing that I really love about having an ocean-facing balcony, and that is privacy. I promise you, I have not yet joined the, what do you call it on a cruise ship? You know, you have the Mile High Club if you, in an airplane. Do we have a name for what's it called if you on your balcony on a cruise ship? One nice thing about having a balcony is you can have, the curtains open and have this big view of the ocean or outside. And when you are in one of these inside facing balconies, like facing Central Park or the boardwalk on the Oasis class of ships, or now the Icon of the Seas, as soon as you have your drapes open, people on the other side can look directly into your cabin. And as soon as you go onto the balcony, you're literally on display for anybody in that section of the ship. And I'm not doing anything nasty, but I do like to go out on the balcony first thing in the morning in my underwear just to get a breath of fresh air? A breath of fresh air. And sometimes I like to lay out there and get a tan with no tan lines, if you know what I'm saying. And those are things that I wouldn't or shouldn't be doing in one of the inside facing balconies. So I think maybe if an inside facing balcony was the same price as an ocean view cabin, that might be a time I would consider one of these inside view cabins. And the only other reason that I've heard and that I've sort of experienced why having one of these inside facing balcony cabins would be attractive to me is because in Central Park on the Oasis class of ships, it's kind of a really cool vibe at night. They have live music down there, maybe somebody playing the piano, maybe somebody playing a violin, and it's sort of a peaceful, calm, cool vibe that I think I could enjoy, but yet I don't know if it's enough for me to want to pay a lot more than an inside cabin. And of course, there's aft-facing balcony cabins, and there's like cabins that are on the bend that offer you more space, and then there's junior suites, and there are so many other different kinds of cabins. In this video, I just wanted to focus on those three most popular styles, so I hope this helped you. Let me know what you think about this. If I forgot anything, write it all down in the comments. And speaking of comments, now comes the time on Sunday Sofa Time where I comment on your comments live on air. Speaking of cruise ship cabins, last week's travel vlog, so here on the very unofficial travel guides during the week, I post videos from when I have been traveling, and then on the weekend I sit down here in my living room and talk about some travel related subject. Last week's travel vlog was actually a tour of our cabin on the Independence of the Seas. It was a balcony cabin and it's kind of tired. And the sofa we had in that cabin was nasty. It was really disappointing for my sister's first cruise that was the cabin that we got. And last week's Sunday Sofa Time was talking about how to avoid getting on cruises where there's gonna be a ton of kids. These comments are on that video. The first one is from Jeremy Chu. Jeremy writes, Atlantis Cruises definitely has no kids. OMG. Good point. Other commenters were saying sort of a similar comment that themed cruises, which are becoming more and more popular, they usually end up being kid-free. Themed cruises are like the 80s rock cruises or the New Kids on the Block cruises. Atlantis is like a charter company. They rent out an entire ship for a cruise, and then they set up all kinds of different clubs and concerts and comedians and parties and things like that that appeal to a gay male audience. I have not been on an Atlantis cruise. I don't think I will go on an Atlantis cruise. I have friends that have been on Atlantis cruises and it's a vibe. These cruises get really, really crazy, and I think it's good when I've heard stories and seen pictures about these cruises. It's good that there are no kids allowed. By the way, there are also swinger cruises, and I'm pretty sure there are no kids allowed on those either, which is a good thing. Next comment is from Walker MEDR. They write, we just got off the Enchanted Princess. Only 17 kids on board. Downside, the median age was 83. Yeah, one of the things we talked about in the video last Sunday was that certain cruise lines, even though they aren't officially adults only, they only appeal to people of a certain age. But then, yeah, you kind of have to be careful. If you're still really young at heart and you're looking for one of those kid-free cruises, you might end up on one of those ships or one of those sailings like Walker did, where it's a lot of more advanced cruisers. And, you know, that's neither here nor there. But if you're somebody who want to cruise kid-free, but still be up late at night and maybe go dancing and hang out in the bar and listen to music. If you end up on one of these sailings, you're probably going to be missing that too. And the final comment is from Marini Crosby. Marini writes, another hint. Don't grab those kids sail free cruises, LOL. And this is something I totally didn't think of. There are times when the cruise lines are offering this special that kids can sail free in the same cabin as adults. And that is a huge warning sign. If the cruise you're looking at is offering kids sail free, stay away. Don't do that to yourself. All right, everybody. Thanks again for hanging out with me on this Sunday afternoon or whichever day you choose to watch this video. In next week's Sunday Sofa Time, I'm going to be telling you about my upcoming all-inclusive vacation on Fuerteventura, this tiny little island off the coast of Africa. Make sure you tune in if you want those details, and I look forward to seeing you back here soon. Bye-bye.